Okay, second call of the week. We've got the Battle of Columbia. We've got South Carolina, Mizzou. So from South Carolina, we've got Sam. Thanks for coming on, Sam. And then from Mizzou, we've got Nate. Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's a hard act to follow, man. I heard you got this guy Sean Roddy last time, man. He was just perfect, man. I hope I can top him.
Hey, we could say whatever you could agree with or disagree with some of his opinions about maybe Halloween costumes, but the number one thing that you cannot argue about Sean Roddy, number one audio quality guest of all time.
The man can also eat an entire king cake in one sitting, which is very impressive. All right, so let's jump right into it. This is a game that is a battle basically for the name of the city of Columbia. There's not a lot of history between these two schools, but y'all do have the history of battling the names. So, Sam, give me 3 reasons why you think that your Columbia is better than Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, it's a pretty easy matchup. Obviously, Columbia, South Carolina takes the reins there. First things first, we're talking football. So, you know that when you come down to Williams-Brice Stadium, the stadium's going to be full, 70,000 people, maybe 80, rain or shine, 2-5 Mustache season or even a 5-2 Steve Spurrier season from time to time. The atmosphere at Williams-Brice beats whatever's going on in Missouri any day of the week. Reason number 1. Number 2, you know that the Rooster's Crowing on Friday before the game, which is a really good way to kick off the weekend. I don't think there's that kind of activity in Columbia, Missouri anyway. And, the reason number 3, which is pretty simple, and everyone to think about is sit quietly and with a straight face say that you're excited to go to Columbia, Missouri. And if you can do that, then let me know. But that's not where I stand on the matter. So I think fantastic atmosphere.
Can I get you to explain what the Rooster Crowing on Friday is?
Yes.
Is that sexual?
It's not sexual. It could be, and it's confusing to people sometimes, but it's not sexual. It's actually just a really passionate group of alumni have something with the school, and there's speakers all throughout the campus, all throughout downtown, and people from out of town. Sometimes it throws them off, but on Friday, about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, a rooster crows throughout the entire city just to let you know that A, it's the weekend, B, there's going to be a game tomorrow, and C, if you haven't already, it's probably time to start drinking because, well, there's a game tomorrow. So it's a really good way to kick off the weekend, and it's a nice touch in Columbia.
Well, that's a tradition that I've never heard of. That sounds awesome.
It's great.
I would add to that, D, you said if you haven't already, go ahead and wake up and hit the fields. Like, it's time to start working. Farmers got to get to work.
That's true too. That's true too. I'll send y'all a clip of it after this so you can feel it for yourself.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We'll cut it in.
For sure. All right, Nate, give me 3 reasons why Columbia, Missouri is better than Columbia, South Carolina. That's a pretty tall order, sounds like.
So I'm gonna get into it, but first, I actually, when I was reading the notes for the questions you asked, you actually spelled Columbia like the country. So first of all, I demand an apology. To both of us.
Spelling is not my strong suit. It's a genetic thing. I can only do so many things well, and I just lost spelling. That's my bad.
I got two things to say about that. The first is I should get more than 3 because you done goofed it. But second of all, secondly, like you're trying to equate like this nation of like millions of people with these like 2 small towns. So like I know that deep down, like you think that truly like these are like really, really great cities. And, like Sam brought up a bunch of points, and I'm gonna bring up a bunch of points too, but like I think you have made our points for us. So that's what I gotta say to begin with. But first,
okay. That's fair.
So I'm gonna get into town stuff. I'm gonna kind of like systematically dismantle all the stuff about your Columbia, and then I'll get into it. So first of all, Columbia, Missouri. If the icon of University of Missouri is the columns, and if you're kind of shitty at spelling, like I guess y'all are, you might spell it like Columbia, and that's emblematic, dude. That you can't get that. Like they call your like rooster cock Columbia. That just doesn't happen. So that's what I got to say about that.
Oh, okay. The word Columbia has columns in it.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right.
That second,
Fair enough.
That's slow logic to me, but I'm ready for the rest.
secondly, the thing that makes Columbia, Missouri better than Columbia, South Carolina is Columbia, South Carolina is the capital of South Carolina. And that means you got to deal with politicians like Lindsey Graham, man. He's an idiot. So like you don't really have a college town. You have a college town with a capital in it. Like I don't think you could have both. You know, if your town caters to politicians and a college, like how can you be the quintessential college town? Columbia, I would say, is the best of both worlds because we're about 30 minutes away from the capital city. So we got a little political action while also being, you know, just college town. So got you on that one. Secondly, Columbia, South Carolina has a river running through it, and I think that could be very detrimental in a flood. We have a river close by, so it's not in the town, but it's nearby. So I'm glad we could get that out of the way. Thirdly, and I get one more, of course, but
yes,
yeah.
Thirdly, University of Missouri, like we invented homecoming, so you're going to get a knockoff version anywhere else you go. You go to Columbia, South Carolina, you're going to get the fake version, man. You want a real Philly cheesesteak, you don't go to San Francisco. You want a real corn dog, man, you go to Baton Rouge, but you don't go to fucking like Gainesville, Florida. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
so with all these things, that's what I've got to say. But also for O'Field, for football, there's nothing better. The whole town shuts down for game day. I bet your town only a small portion of the town shuts down for game day. If I had to guess.
You wish they waste space in that stadium for grass for people to look at. And Williams-Brice, it's concrete, massive human beings.
All right.
No. The grass is good because that means everyone is, you know, sitting close together. We're not really allowed to do that anymore with COVID, so it's kind of a throwback.
Nate, I couldn't help but notice that number 1 and number 2 for Columbia, Missouri was you're kind of close to something, but not as close as Columbia, South Carolina, which is
that's right.
In some ways, an absurd way to justify.
I'm kind of close to politics, but not really close. I'm somewhat close to a body of water, but I don't actually have to be close to a body of water. That's what I got.
It kind of sounds like a trend going through that, you know, Missouri is kind of close to being relevant in the SEC, but not quite relevant enough to, you know, to even finish that off. So,
yeah.
Oh man, I would say the same thing with 2 and 5, 5 and 2. But no, you asked what makes it a quintessential college town, man. I have heard no evidence that Columbia, South Carolina is a college town. I just think it's a regular town with the Capitol, the State House, and a river.
I don't know, Nate. That Rooster Crow thing sounds pretty college town to me. Just my 2 cents.
You're sorely mistaken, but I understand.
All right.
Well, I have it on good authority that they're gonna allow a tiger to just roam the streets soon. So that's cool too.
I'll stay on the lookout for that. I'll stay by my phone. All right, let's move on to question number 2. Let's get into some X's and O's here. So we've got new faces all around. Some are newer than others, or some are changing as we speak somewhat. So Nate, kind of what do you feel about the job Eli Drinkwitz has done halfway through, or a little bit more than halfway through his first season? Well,
I mean, season, that's kind of a strong word for what's happening in college football right now. I think it's a collection of games, in my opinion. But I'll be brutally honest, and I think that there aren't really too many Mizzou fans outside of Missouri. So I think the people who are paying attention, like they're probably pretty excited. I see it on Twitter. It's kind of difficult to get games, man. I get the antenna, that I'm not getting all the good channels, the SEC stuff. So everything I know comes from Twitter. But basically, people online have been talking. They like Drinkwitz because he's like sticking it to COVID. He kind of said the SEC response was a little shitty. If you ask me, I would agree with that. I mean, half the games have been canceled. I think a lot of people, they like his name because it kind of sounds like drink with. It's like, hey man, you want to come drink with us? And that's a fun tradition at Missouri. Do you have a tradition like that, Sam, at South Carolina for like drinking? Do y'all do that?
It's just part of Saturday. We don't have to make a thing about it, you know.
Okay.
Just kind of hang out.
But going to like the nuts and bolts of the X's and O's. I mean, we're one like good defensive or shitty defensive stand away from being 1-4. I mean, like it's not really a good team. So yeah, like I mean, I hate to rip on LSU, but like that's our like crowning fucking achievement this year. Like we beat LSU. Wow, cool.
Yeah, everybody.
But-
Hey, this is a defended chance. Put some respect on that name.
No, don't do it. It's not worth it.
But like, but I think in general, Missouri lacks enthusiasm and Drinkwitz. Hopefully he'll his restrained swagger will bring back some stuff. Will bring back some energy.
Yeah, I wrote in my little notes before the call that I just wanted to make this comment. Eli Drinkwitz does look like a nerd. So just wanted to throw that out there for you to respond. Go ahead.
I don't disagree with that. He looks like a dude who could be like, you need to run at approximately 1.4 kilometers per hour to catch the ball. That's kind of how I imagine him speaking.
All right, similar question, or kind of in the same vein, Sam. What do you think about Will Muschamp being gone, and maybe comment on who you're hearing might bring him in and who you want to replace him?
Yeah, of course. So first things first, everybody wanted Will Muschamp to be successful. We wanted Coach Boom to come into Columbia and scream at refs and yell at players and bring some heat to the field, right? But it just didn't happen. After 5 seasons, 28-30, losing record, after getting his choice pick of an offensive coordinator, after bringing in stellar recruiting classes year after year to South Carolina standards, we're disappointed to see him go. But ultimately, it's time for him to go. And I think, a big part of this, we look at our athletic department, who hired a Will Muschamp as a successful defensive coordinator, a failed head coach, and gave him another shot. We're going to really look from some leadership from our athletic department to not make that same mistake again. Like, we don't necessarily want to have a Steve Spurrier situation where we're going to hire a coach who's already made his name and wants to kind of ride on that. I think that looking to the future, we'd love to have a coach come in who's young and exciting, who's really ready to build a program and not just kind of stay there for a few years. A couple of nice names are floating around. Joe Brady's one that's really hot from the Panthers. A lot of people like Hugh Freeze. He's a bit of a scumbag, but people in Columbia would welcome him with open arms. So sad to see Muschamp go. Loves his energy. Like the guy a lot, but it's just his time for him to move on.
I got a name for you. 2 names: Lee Corso and Lou Holtz.
Wouldn't that be Lou? See, we can't have the Lou Holtz. We can't have him back in here. We can't have someone, can't pull people off the bench. I think that's part of the problem with the names floating around is we're talking about pulling someone off the bench or someone who's just getting fired from their other job to pick them up. And that's when we're really going to look at our athletic department and ask them not to make the same mistake that they made in the past. We need some fresh blood in there and someone who's going to stick around, build a program.
Yeah, I would be really frustrated if y'all called up Charlie Strong or Willie Taggart or something like that, like someone who just got destroyed at Texas or USC or Florida State or something. Yeah, I could get on board with that.
And
Sam,
they've been
can you
talking
speak to Steve Spurrier's obsession with Will Muschamp? He's the reason why Muschamp got the job in Florida, and then he gets fired at Florida, and Steve Spurrier retires. And it's like, you should hire Will Muschamp. That's a great fit. Can you speak to that? I have no idea why he's obsessed with the guy.
All right, so why he's obsessed with him, I think he saw him as a successful coach, as a great recruiter. And I think that's something that Steve Spurrier did really well. He brought a lot of energy to the locker room and got a lot of respect from his players, which Steve Spurrier also did well. So I think they kind of got along from that aspect of being like a player's coach, and wanted to give him another shot at South Carolina. Other part about that, we all know Steve Spurrier, love him dearly. Did he want to hire somebody or encourage someone to come into South Carolina that was going to do better than him? I don't know. I think he was ready to sit atop of the South Carolina Tower. That's something people joke about. But I think they brought the same kind of player coach energy and good at recruiting and locker room kind of presence And I think that's why they kind of got along and why Steve Spurrier would support him.
That makes sense.
That kind of leads into the next question that we were going to ask, and I'll start with you because we're talking about Steve Spurrier. But it's really interesting. If you were just to look at the last 5 years, you would never think that these two teams are the only two teams in the past decade from the SEC East, other than Florida and Georgia, that have made it to Atlanta to represent the SEC East.
Yeah.
So, like, what happened? Like, how far away are you guys from getting back to that point? What is it going to take for y'all to get there?
So the first thing it will take is, a nice smackdown of the Columbia Cup this weekend. I'm predicting the Gamecocks by at least 90. But
At least 90?
At least 90. And aside from that, what it's going to take is some energy out of our players. I think that this year we lost some momentum coming off a big one on Auburn and got stopped there with really talented people on the team, talented people on the bench too. Slows everybody down. So I think we've got good players on the team, but it's going to take some energy from the current coaches to bring them back up to that. And it's going to take some energy from a new hire to energize the team and make South Carolina back to, a point of relevance, which, I think we are every year. I was in school when Steve Spurrier was the coach. So in my heart of hearts, I think South Carolina is, the best team in the SEC East, and Georgia sneaks one by us every year. But, not everybody may agree with that.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. Every year.
Speaking of talented players on the bench, how much money do you think Will Muschamp paid Jordan Burch to come to South Carolina and sit on the bench on a 2-5 team?
Didn't pay him anything. Just gave him an opportunity to grow as a young man and be on a good football team. Go Cokes.
Okay. Very, very political answer. You're from the capital, so it makes sense.
We'll cut that.
All right, Nate. Same type of question. You're one of the two teams outside of Florida and Georgia that's made it to the conference championship in the past decade. How far away are y'all from getting back there? I mean, it seems like things have the wheels have fallen off the Missouri bandwagon. What do y'all need to do to get back to the glory days?
Yeah, and thanks for the reminder for that. I had honestly kind of forgot. I graduated college a long time ago, and then a couple years after. But I think Missouri has been in a status of pretty irrelevant, I would say, as of late. So it is good to remember that there was at least a good time, somewhat recently, within the past decade. But no, I think that I don't think it's happening this year for sure. There are a lot of better teams in the East right now. So I think that the very first thing is it's just got to be building around Drinkwitz as coach, and he can recruit and get better players. And that's the very first thing. I think you have to have good recruiting. You have to have players that go to the NFL and succeed and can help recruit from there. Missouri's had some players in the NFL, but they're all either backups, bust, or arrested. All of the biggest Missouri starters. We got Drew Lock, and I guess he's backing up, and Alden Smith. He's had his issues here and there, but there's no big stars from Missouri in the NFL.
Nate,
so I
saying that Alden Smith has had his issues here and there is definitely an understatement, considering he's been arrested 7 times and somehow ended up back in the NFL because he's just good at football. He tried to sneak a bomb into the airport.
So we just got to have that, and hopefully we can get a pipeline going for that. And as well, we need a consistent tenure of coach. We had Gary Pinkel when I was in school, and then we had Barry Odom, and now we got Eli Drinkwitz. And you can't just be switching coaches every 3 years. That's not good for programs. So if we can have Drinkwitz for a couple of years, let him grow. I know he jumped ship recently. Hopefully, he won't take a better position. I don't know if an LSU position came open. I hope he wouldn't just jump for that. But I also think that, I think the SEC has its kind of shitty teams, and you play a season, you're going to play the shitty teams and you'll win and you'll go to a bowl game. But every year Missouri gets their behinds kicked in a bowl game, and that doesn't do it. You got to get some enthusiasm. That's kind of, I think the biggest thing. We just need some enthusiasm around the program to get some better recruits. And the last two things I got. I really hope this isn't an issue in the next year, but we need less COVID. I mean, I'm not sure how many games we'll play this season due to how many cancellations there are. I mean, we had one canceled against Vanderbilt, man. That's like a pencil that in for a win every year sometimes. You know, but like we need that.
Even doing to get COVID, there's nothing to do in that town anyway.
No, there's a lot to do. There's a lot
There's not
to do.
a river, though. We know that.
There's a river close by. You don't need to be worried about it flooding. But lastly, we gotta get good luck when we play teams in the West. Like I think it's a pretty good bet that we're not going to beat Alabama probably ever. So hope we can get some a good team, good luck draws, and we don't have to play the best teams every year. Thankfully, we get Arkansas once a year. That's right. That's good.
That's a nice one.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. It's not this year.
Yeah. Well, and one nice thing, I mean, like you guys kind of got hosed, at least that's what everybody was saying initially, was that like Missouri got hosed on the 2 additional cross-divisional games where they drew LSU and Alabama. And I was like, oh, that stinks for Eli Drinkwitz's first season. But like now you guys got LSU and Alabama out of the way. Like you're not going to draw them for a long time. So you're going to go a long way playing, hopefully, like the Mississippi States, Ole Misses. Like, that's a really good point.
Don't sleep on.
But I don't know. Is LSU really like the team to beat anymore? I'm kind of wondering about that.
You shut your mouth. Let's end it here. All right, let's close out. So we always like to close with something the same every single time. So Nate, what we're going to ask you to do is say something nice about Columbia, South Carolina. It doesn't have to be Columbia, just the University of South Carolina.
I think it's cool that y'all can have a live mascot. Well, both of you, LSU and South Carolina. I would love to visit your town. I've never been, believe it or not. I'm sure the river's very nice. Nice weather. So.
All right, Sam. Why don't you respond in kind? Say something nice about Mizzou.
Something nice about Mizzou. They give us a win every once in a while when we really need it, and I appreciate that from the Missouri Tigers.
All right. Appreciate letting us win. All right, cool. All right, this was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for y'all's time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
guys. Thanks.